the retirement of Sting. Came out on Dynamite yesterday as we record this. It'll be 2 days ago as this comes out. Sting talks about the guys he travelled up and down the road with, the influence. In fact, actually, before he does that, Tony Schiavone. So, and I always love it when Tony Schiavone does it. This is Sting! And then Sting comes out and it's great. Sting talks about the guys he travelled up and down the road with, the influences in his professional career, and everyone boos Hulk Hogan, but everyone cheers Ric Flair, and everyone cheers Dusty Rhodes, of course. And why Sting and other older wrestlers keep coming back to wrestling. They'll retire. I mean, Terry Funk's the most famous for it, and then they just can't help themselves. They come back for a variety of different reasons, but mostly for, if not financial, the roar of the crowd and everything. In his original retirement, which he says is 2015, but I know you're gonna dispute that original retirement, says he didn't sit well with him. And that the one thing that is for sure about Sting is that nothing's for sure. Sting announces in the great state of Texas that his last match will be at AEW Revolution 2024, so no date has been given for that pay-per-view, but the 2023 Revolution was in late March, so we're looking like it's going to be late March of 2024. Sting says the one thing sure about Sting is that he is absolutely retiring at Revolution 2024, when he will be either 64 or 65. His birthday's March 20th. So, you saw it. I thought it was. Well, forget what I thought. What do you think?
Oh, it was okay. People liked it. I mean, they like to see Sting. He said in there that he is not made for some kind of matches. I tell you what, he's not made for is diving off ladders on the tables. That almost killed him, and and it was his idea. It had to be his idea to do that. And I think the people felt a little sorry for him, really. He's trying to do stuff that he really wouldn't have done back in his prime. Probably somebody said, hey, why don't you jump off this ladder, dive off this ladder onto this table, and we'll break the table. He'd have said, are you nuts? I'm not doing this. But he gets to 64 years old. Oh, I'm gonna prove I can still do it. But he almost killed himself. He really did. So, and I remember that he had retired before, I think in 2003.
Essentially, when WCW essentially closed, it definitely closed, and then he was doing a couple of shots here and there for like that Australian WWA company or whatever, but he was essentially retired. And then Dixie Carter and the old checkbook's out.
Yeah.
And then
she wrote him that big check, and all of a sudden his retirement plans were put on hold, and he went out there. But see, the deal is when you get a guy that's retired kind of like that, it's hard to do anything with him because, and he would have been like the mid 40s then, or coming up on 50. Very hard to do. Well, it's not hard to do, but you got to watch what you do with a guy like Sting, because you got to protect his image, you got to protect his legacy and his health. You got to protect all that and keep him competitive and keep him strong. So that's quite a bit to put on a creative team.
But you can't build the company around him either.
No, you can't. See, when you talk, that's one guy. You can build a company around one guy, but you got to be slowly filling in the blocks. Who's he going to face? Who's he going to wrestle? You're going to build your heels, and you can run them through Sting. You can do that for a while. It'll work for a while. But then you better have a plan or some more people coming along that when this angle dies down, you got one right here. And when this angle goes down, this one moves in its place. Then this one goes here, the competitors go here. And it's continually revolving like that. Otherwise, you get stuck with downtime, down periods, or just periods that just don't succeed at all. See, the WWE in the last 6 months or the year, they've done a tremendous job. Now they have a bunch of people over with the crowds. So I think when they put on the show now, it's almost like an all-star show, because a lot of those guys, they've done something with them on TV. They've made them interesting. So when they have a match, doesn't matter who wins, people see a good match. And with competitive people and people they know, it's not like putting Joe Smo out there against Leonard Brand or whatever. They know these people, even the underneath guys. And I say underneath, I don't mean underneath in a demeaning manner. I mean, underneath guys are like your first, second, and the third match. They're filling out your card. But even they're starting to mean something. So when you can get your card looking like that, you got a great card. You do. And you can't, and they've been trying to run on Roman Reigns, but they had no baby faces because they used them up. Now they have those for Roman. You know, he's got Cody coming up, you got Gunther coming up. I mean, he has opponents that could step in there and handle this. My thought is, who is the next big heel? Unless it's got to be Gunther. Don't you think?
Could well be.
Because I think they have put him over in such a way, not a lot of screw jobs, if any, really. And putting him, he needs to be put with guys who can take his brutality. And if they get beat, they get beat. I don't think it hurts anybody to put in a hell of an effort against Roman Reigns in a match and then get pinned. Because eventually it's going to work. If you had a real fight on the street, somebody would win if it's a fight to the finish. I've never seen a DQ on the street unless the police come in. So I think they're in a good spot.
That becomes a no contest.
Well, yeah, but that's like both guys, they're pulled apart or something like that. That'll take you so far too. But
with Sting and the retirements, now I said in the preamble before that he said that the first time he retired was in 2015, but that's not really true, because the old joke was, and you've said this before, is that Sting would retire every single time his contract was about to come up in TNA.
Oh, yeah, and then wait for somebody else to write a check. It's like Ric Flair, my last match. Now he's talking about, I want to have another match. Well, you can get somebody to foot that bill.
Sting was getting about $500,000 a year back in TNA. And then he'd retire.
And everybody bitching about it. And I don't blame him. And do you have a figure on Kurt Angle?
In TNA?
Yeah.
I can have a look, one sec. So the best I can find in this short time is that Kurt Angle was making 7 figures a year in TNA. So he was making $1 million plus. That's all we know.
Well, I can see now why Awesome Kong and Gail Kim got pissed off over their pay. Here's a guy, and I want you to think about this in regular life. He's making TV once every 2 weeks on a Wednesday. And he's making $10,000 a week. So we'd only do 2 shows in Orlando on a Wednesday, 2 shows. Oh, we do it on Monday and Tuesday. That's what we do. Hell, he should have been rested up doing all that time. I was doing an interview with Sting one time, and Sting, I think Vince wrote the interviews. He was having trouble with the interview. He couldn't remember it. And I kept trying to say, I'm there while he's going over it. And I said, this and this. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. And I finally said, well, if I don't tell you, you'll never finish this interview. Let me help you here. And he finally got through it. He wanted to do it by himself. Eventually, I just let him do it by himself. We did it about 10 times. He said, why can't I get this? I said, I don't know. He said, no, I think you messed me up. I said, I didn't mess you up. How long you been in this business? We got in a little bit of an argument, but not a little bit. I said, how you been in this business damn near 30 years? You should know how to do this. My God, I'm just here helping you out. If you want me to help you, just tell me. I'll get somebody else over here. But here I'm trying to help a guy, and he's getting mad at me. He's really mad at himself. But don't take it out on me. I'm not your whipping boy today. So then he just beat the shit out of me, and I shut up. So.
I think this Sting is probably one
that
of those.
That is not funny, James. When I said he beat the shit out of me, you found humor in that, didn't you?
I did.
See?
I did.
Okay, go ahead.
I think Sting is one of those guys where we differ mostly, because I really like Sting. I've got a lot of affection for Sting. I was the right age when he came up, and he's one of the best characters on TV. I know you're not the biggest fan of Sting ever since you had to deal with him in 85 or 86, whenever it was, when him and Ultimate Warrior was doing that tag team thing. But the one thing I'll say about Sting, because I mean, some people level criticisms that he needed a lot of help coming up, which you can argue one or two ways. You can say, well, either one, he needed a lot of help, or two, he was a really good listener, and he took direction well. But the other thing is with Sting is, and I think this is a fair criticism, is that he never really seemed to have much depth to his character, in the sense that he was always just Sting. You never really got to the heart and soul of the character, I suppose.
Well, he had some heart and soul when he got to be the Crow, and he was coming in. See, that rejuvenated his career. Mm-hmm. He can owe that to Scott Hall. And I've said this before, that he wrestled Flair, and Flair got him over, and he gave Flair credit in this farewell speech or his retirement speech. And he gave all the guys that helped him, he gave them their just dues. So he went with Flair around, and Flair got him over. And then Flair went around with Luger and got him over. And the Brain Trust and WCW said, hey, got a hell of an idea. They sold out with Flair, Sting did, and Luger sold out with Flair. Let's book them against each other. Great idea. So they booked them. Did it go in the toilet? And they didn't understand it, because nobody, you split your crowd. Half of them wanted to see Sting win, half of them wanted to see Luger win, and then no matter what they did, half their house was pissed off. And they drew about a half a crowd for it anyway.
And neither were really leading the matches either. Like, who was going to lead that match?
That's what I'm saying. But whatever you did, it was going to be a flat finish. Half the people pissed off. Nobody wanted to see it to begin with, or they would be there. See, the people didn't come in saying, oh, I hope he beats the hell out of Luger, because they'll still like Luger. Or the Luger fans saying, I hope he beats the hell out of Sting, because they didn't want to see either one of them lose. So when one of them did lose, I forgot what happened, what the finish was, but half the crowd was pissed off. That's Wrestling 101. That I don't know who booked that, but they learned a lesson there.
I'd like to just justify what I said about Sting before, about, never really getting to the heart, and, never being like too emotional and never like having too much depth. I'm talking about someone like Ricky Morton, who, would sell, and he would cry in the ring, and, sweat would be rolling down his eyes, but it looked like he was crying and reaching out to the fans and that kind of thing. Or Ric Flair, who, would get hugely emotional, that kind of thing. Whereas Sting was sort of not as three-dimensional as that. He was more the indefatigable, if you like that word.
I like that word.
Yeah, superhero kind of thing, where he wasn't like a fully fleshed out, like flawed human being that you could relate to in that sense. He was more of a superhero character, especially in The Crow, and for many years as well. But having said that, I still think Sting was great. He was the best thing at All In when I went to go see All In. At Wembley. I still say he was the best thing there. Maybe not the greatest match to most people, but that was the biggest treat, was to get to see Sting live for me.
Well, good. So you left home happy. You went home happy.
No, I didn't. I had a 4-hour drive. I was miserable by the time I got home. I was very tired.
We're taking that out. At the matches, you were happy.
Yes, I was. It was great to see Sting.
Okay. So, right. But anyway, we have characters like that. And what you're saying is it was hard to be emotionally invested in Sting because of the gimmick.
Yeah, in the same way that it would be with someone who would be more personable, like a Steve Austin, or as I say, a Ricky Morton or a Tommy Rich, or anyone like that kind of thing. But
See, Ricky Morton brought him in. Tommy Rich brought him in because they struggled. And like Ricky Morgan would cry, and and his fan base, they suffered with him. See, Sting's fan base knew that he was going to make a comeback somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So they were waiting for that. Luger's fan base knew he was going to make a comeback somewhere. But even with the Flair fans, when he got a tough heel, they didn't know if he was going to make a comeback or not. So, but that's one of the things that makes this business unique. Every character is different. Every character has to be treated differently. And unless you do that, you're begging for trouble. You're borrowing trouble, and it will come knocking on your door too.